Welcome everyone. We can hear, we can see, we're here. We're well rested, and we're here to talk about South Park, bigger, longer, and uncut.
Like the penis.
Which one? The penis?
The
Oh my
penis.
god. I didn't know it was the penis.
Hey Kaylin, are you doing a G.I. Jane 2 sequel?
I actually watched G.I. Jane not too long ago, and I was pretty moved by Demi Moore, and she does look good with a shaved head.
Excuse me, did you just say Demi Moore? Can you keep my wife's name out of your motherfucking mouth?
Oh, did you guys hear what happened to Bruce Willis?
No?
Oh yeah, Ashton Kutcher married his wife.
No, not
I heard about that a while ago. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the big news of the week. Anyway, moving on.
I apologize. Gentlemen, how are you guys? How have you been since last week? Hopefully in good health.
Fucking tired, dude.
Aw, is that because
This is like the first day I've had energy in a long time, so I feel good.
Did you have a Red Bull? You have some rain?
If I drank a Red Bull at 10 p.m. on a Wednesday, I would be up until 10 p.m. on a Thursday.
I believe that.
No, I can't get this done for you people watching. For the people watching the Zoom version of the podcast in the distant future, I can't get this. You're gonna have to look at Cartman behind me turning into Akira again, because I can't get this picture I want to work, and I don't care enough to keep.
Oh,
I feel like
That's
the
a
one
good
I
point.
have is better anyway.
I will have backgrounds maybe at some point, but I don't right now. You get to look at my room.
Your CD collection? What decade
and,
are you from?
Speaker boxes, CDs, man. Anyway, but Jason, no, you got to keep your face. You got to put it in. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, you gotta do like. Oh, no.
No.
Anyway, I also have the DVD.
So we are wrapping up this month's mature animations of March, which segues into our next month's Birthday Boys Jason's month, and we'll fill you in on the details on that later. But for tonight,
spoilers.
Yeah,
it has to do with this. And this episode here is actually because the other boys get 5 weeks in their month, and April only has 5. April only has 4 Wednesdays.
only 4 Wednesdays.
So to make it fair,
we did this month of, and it turns out that I actually get 6 weeks in a row because I picked last week's Final Fantasy.
yeah, we all agreed to that.
It's true.
I didn't.
Yeah, but you watched the movie and now you've seen it, so now it's another movie to put on your list of movies.
You didn't agree to it? Wait, hold on. Why'd we do it then?
Watch last week because he thought Final Fantasy was all like
Swords and elves.
Even though,
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be cool. I'm just joking.
oh my god.
I didn't think it was going to be boring as fun.
Hey, that movie rules, and I got to bleed my brain about Final Fantasy, so I'm going to be able to bleed my brain now about Trey Parker and Matt Stone for the next 5 weeks.
I feel like we're probably gonna go on a lot of tangents and segues and interruptions and disruptions, and I welcome it all. But before we do, but as we continue to do so, we'll go into our first little segment of our introductions. And Steven, why don't you regale us with your introduction to this week's movie, South Park, bigger, longer, and uncut.
Regale. All right.
I think I used that word properly. Is that?
Yep.
Oh.
No, you did. You did. I was just like, that's a
Fancy.
it's a
Mr.
high bar you've set for me.
$10 word, Kaylin.
Well,
$10 on Scrabble?
No.
Or no, sorry, Scrabble's point.
It's just
yeah, you don't get money for playing Scrabble. Kaylin's playing Scrabble in the streets, being like, "Oh, all I got is egg. How much do I get for egg?" So the movie South Park, bigger, longer, and uncut. I was kind of scared of South Park as a kid because it was that thing that everybody was like, "Ooh, did you see this one? It's a movie show for adults, and it's full of swears and bleeps and fart jokes and vagina jokes and penis jokes." And so I was always like, "Oh, this is a bad thing that bad kids watch." But I saw this at my friend Arjun Trivedi, who is one of my greatest friends. His birthday, and it was either the 7th grade or the 8th grade, and he had it like a sleepover birthday, and his parents didn't give a shit. They rented this movie for us. It's not that they didn't give a shit. I think they just didn't know because they saw it as an animated movie and they weren't familiar with South Park, and so we were allowed to watch it.
Cartoons can't
Sounds
be
like
mature.
the plot of this movie.
Yeah. But yeah, it actually is a very similar plot to the movie. Yeah, we were in his basement watching it, and I was like, I had seen episodes of the show, obviously, but it always kind of grossed me out. Like South Park was really gross to me. I was like, this is like gross jokes. Everything about it is gross, and it makes me feel icky. And the movie is no different. I did, however, like that there was songs in it, and the songs were very catchy and reminded me of Disney movies of the golden Disney era, like The Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast, and like all of Aladdin, all my favorites. And so I got into the music, and I don't really remember much from that viewing other than I remember Arjun was upset that Gandhi was portrayed as being in hell. He was like, "What the fuck?" Arjun is Indian, by the way. Yeah, my friend Arjun, he's Indian, and he was like, "Why is Gandhi in hell?" And I was like, "I don't know. Like, I know why Hitler's in hell, but I don't know why they put Gandhi in hell." And I'm like sitting there with my friend, being like, "I don't understand either." And then I didn't know who George Burns was at the time, and I like on viewing yesterday. I don't think I've seen this since middle school. And I was like, "Oh, George Burns. I guess he was like Jewish. Is that why he's in hell too?" I think it was like Hitler, and then everybody else just wasn't Christian. For the most part.
The thing about Gandhi though is like he's remembered as this like hero, but he had some stuff. I don't know if that's
so does every human being on the planet Earth. You could probably make all of us would be in hell.
You like to sleep with young people, so you don't hear about that bit about Gandhi very often. Because
maybe we should continue to not hear about it. Moving on.
What's the guy's name? He pulled that guy. Woody, is it Woody? No. Woody Allen?
What about Woody Allen?
Woody Allen? Yeah, Woody Allen married his like stepdaughter or whatever when she was 14 or some shit. Yeah. Let's not talk about this stuff. I don't like talking about these things. It's really gross and disturbing.
Welcome back to the Serious Facts podcast, where we give you the serious facts.
Does anybody else want to talk about Hollywood pedophilia?
And so
I'll tell you who does. Corey Feldman.
Corey Feldman is a.
I mean, he wants to talk about it, but he doesn't actually ever talk about it. He just infers that it happens. Yeah.
The wrong Corey died.
Well, it's because he's trying to make money off of it, which is probably just as bad as what happened to him.
If not worse, right?
Well, I mean, I said what happened to him. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, so that was the first time I watched the movie. I watched it a couple of times after that, but I do think that every time I'd seen it was in middle school, and I'm not well versed in South Park, but I've watched lots and lots and lots of South Park, as many people of our age have. I will say, however, that I think that this movie is an example of early South Park, not South Park when it found its footing. And you can tell by the lazy ass writing throughout most of the movie. It's like they were just filling gaps between the wonderful songs that they wrote. And that is where I will pass it to whomever you decide to call upon next. Kayla.
Well, Jason, why don't you lavish us with your introduction to this?
That works too. It's pretty simple. I've told the story on the show before about how my mom had this boyfriend who wanted to keep me out of their hair and convinced my mom to get me a TV for my bedroom. At the time I was like, fuck yeah. But then like a decade later, I'm like, wait a second. He just wanted me to get away from him. But I saw South Park on it when it originally aired. It came on it like I remember seeing a commercial for South Park, and all it had was like the logo and like the rats. Like they didn't show the kids or anything. And it's Cartman gets an anal probe. And of course, I was one of the bad kids that Steve is talking about. I wanted to see I didn't like horror, but I liked movies with swearing and boobs and all that kind of stuff when I was 12 and 13. And when this thing came out, it blew my entire mind. And it coincides with me meeting one of my best pals, Jake. And when we became friends, we would stay up every Friday night and watch South Park. It goes without saying that I've seen every episode of South Park. I still watch it to this day. I haven't seen any of this season, but I've seen everything up to like the COVID specials. And when this movie came out, I was 14. And unlike the kids of the movie, I could not go to see it in theaters. There was nobody that could. There was no homeless man that I could pay to get me in. And my mom was like, no, it's clearly rated R. Maybe when it comes out in video, we can have one of those like.
Wait, are you telling me in Halifax you couldn't find one homeless man who was willing to, for a pint of vodka, get you into this movie?
I said that
if you don't want $10 and you don't want to get yourself some vodka, fine.
I said that in jest. I didn't really have that line of thinking as a kid. There were homeless men.
You probably should have saw the movie and then you would have gotten the
exactly.
Yeah.
But I always regarded this movie as a big coming of age moment for myself, because when it did finally come out on video, me and Jake rented it and laughed so hard that we died, and I'm dead now. But also, I regard this movie as almost the.
Oh, Kaylin, we're doing a ghost podcast. We're talking to a ghost right now.
But also, I regard this as the prequel to all of South Park, and because when Stan
say that again. Say that again.
It's the prequel to South Park, the series.
Oh, when it actually starts to get rolling, kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, the reason why I say that is because before this, the kids don't know how to swear, and the whole point of the show is that they swear a lot and get themselves into these fucked up situations. And Stan is walking through the streets.
This is before the show. That I like that theory.
He's singing about how it's Sunday.
Because after the movie, Kenny is dead for real in the show for a time. So that canonically lines it up.
No, there's an episode where Kenny dies canonically and is out for several seasons.
I know that, but isn't it after the movie he's dead for a little bit as well?
He's just back. The movie doesn't. It takes place out of canon. Because
whatever, that's fine. I really don't care about animated television shows canon. Like Bart Simpson has been in the 8th grade for like a million years.
I'm just telling you that
who cares?
This movie is the catalyst to get them ready in the TV show. And another thing that I loved was that the fact this is a musical. The only other time we really saw that is the Chef Aid. I had the Chef Aid album, where Chocolate Salty Balls is from. And they have chef needs money for something I can't remember now, but they have a big concert and they put out this album that is a banger. And then I was like, sweet, a new South Park album. And this movie also coincides with the birth of the internet as we know now. It's one of those things. So Kyle's Mom is a Bitch and Uncle Fucker and It's Easy MK. Those songs were all like downloaded on LimeWire and Kazaa. And I think Kyle's Mom is a Fat Bitch is a like viral, one of the original viral videos from that era.
I think it's Kyle's Mom's a Bitch, not Kyle's Mom's a fat bitch.
Kyle's mom is a big fat bitch.
Kyle's mom's a bitch. She's a big fat bitch. She's the biggest bitch in the whole wide world.
Yeah. So anyway,
she's a mean old bitch. If there ever was a bitch, she's a bitch to all the boys and girls.
Yeah,
correct.
Exactly. So in summation, I was deeply affected by South Park and this movie, and it was whenever I do I rewatch South Park every few years, probably every 5 years or so, from where like up to wherever they're at, and I always put the movie in canonically, but I always regard it as that this series of events is the reason why they become who they are.
I like it.
That's, as they say, is that.
Can we do a musical number before this episode ends? Like all three of us? Okay.
I think we would need to plan that out, Kaylin. I don't know if we can.
Yeah,
I don't know if we can impromptu do a
bring up the
musical.
lyrics on your screen behind you.
Oh, you mean sing a song from the movie?
Yeah.
Also, no. I don't think I want to do that.
I would want to maybe separately someday.
Okay.
We'll do a musical.
I'll put it on our to-do list. I got ideas, man. The gears.
I've heard Jason sing. He's a competent singer.
True.
I can do what my voice allows it to.
Jason, that's where you're supposed to say, I've heard Steve sing. He's also a competent singer.
I've heard Steve sing.
Have you?
Oh, God. You didn't say competent singer. Oh, no.
No,
All right.
I only really heard you sing. When would I have heard you sing
that was rude.
even?
And I think we've sang
I was gonna
together
say,
at
have you
karaoke
ever-
before.
Okay, possible. I might have been hitting the ball.
After your wedding, I sang a Frank Sinatra song at one of them bars that we were at in Halifax.
Love and Marriage?
Did you do karaoke at my bachelor party?
No, I was not at your bachelor party.
Oh, because
Your bachelor party was the roast, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a roast, but it was in a gay bar, and one of the with multiple rooms, and one of the rooms had karaoke set up.
That was actually a really dope bachelor party, and also a dope idea. And all your buddies were hilarious. The one buddy that kept telling the story about the joint, and it kept getting more and more tobacco in it as he, like, every time he retold the story, was awesome.
Yeah. Yep.
Which brings me to me.
Yeah, come on, host it.
Let's hear your first time here seeing this movie.
You guys are gonna love it. So I went to see this movie with my mom.
What the fuck? Okay, this is gonna be the.
I almost did
So wait.
onto all my screens.
Did your mom also explain to you what a rim job is afterwards? Are you Cartman? Is your mom Cartman's mom?
Somebody licks your asshole.
Yeah.
So we didn't talk about anything, but I didn't know what a clitoris was, and there was like moments like we
Wait, you didn't know what a clitoris was?
I guess not. I don't remember knowing what a clitoris was at the time.
When he was 13, I don't think so.
I knew what it was. That's when they're teaching you about it at that point, where I'm from anyway. And in school they taught us.
I remember vagina. I remember this is a vagina. I don't remember this part right here. That's
No, I do remember. Now that you say that, I do remember there being diagrams, but they're not teaching you what it does. Because the curriculum isn't like, here's how you get off. They're just like,
well, they also don't teach what it does. It does in this movie either. So I guess it's safe.
That's how you get a girl to like you.
I was just as confused going into this as I was.
So the clitoris gives you wisdom? Is that what a clitoris does?
But yes.
Just be confident, Kaylin. Tell us the first time you saw the movie.
Well, that was truth though. That was straight up truth. That's all it is. That is the answer.
Yeah, sometimes women like neurotic weirdos as well. Like it's not the only.
Yeah, but they're still they're confident neurotic weirdos.
I made a career out of being a competent. Anyway, sorry.
But no, that was my introduction. I had laughs. There were some things that I wasn't entirely sure about. I wasn't like what's it called, sheltered? Do they call it what's it called when a kid is sheltered?
Sheltered, yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't sheltered, but I also didn't go out of my way to find out stuff like this or whatever, right? I remember one time my buddy in the neighborhood where I lived, me and a buddy went to another buddy's place. He's like, check this out. And he types in shitcity.com. And
oh no, I don't want to hear this story, I think.
I'll end it there, but it was like it was almost exactly like what happened in the movie when they try to find Carmen's mom.
God,
Kaylin. Yeah.
I'm so surprised. I'm so surprised that they didn't show that, because later seasons, I'm thinking specifically of the World of Warcraft episode where Cartman is like, "Mom, bring me a pizza pocket," and then she brings down a pizza pocket. And he's just like, "Open the bucket," and he shits all over her. And they do like way more disgusting shit in later seasons.
Well, Comedy Central
This is
evolved.
still early, yeah.
They grew. They allowed more literal shit humor. But also, it's not a movie at that point, right? Like late night television is different than a movie. And to keep a rating down from an R rating to a 14A rating, they have to, or even an 18A rating, they have to clip some things that they can even show on late night television that they can't show in a movie.
Trey Parker talks at length about that in a couple of the documentaries. He hates the MPA.
Yeah, I assume that he meets some serious issues when it comes to his movie releases because they're always disgusting. And I did mention earlier that South Park grosses me out, as does everything that Trey Parker is a director of. All of his stuff is gross. It's very gross.
Funny though.
When Cannibal the Musical is going to be the least gross, that's look forward to that, kids.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I've never seen it.
It's hilarious. I watched.
Sorry, Kaylin, you haven't finished your tale. We should allow you to continue without interrupting.
No, the tale takes us directly into. I'm going to read the summary off of the back and then maybe add a little. We'll see. So, Stan, Kyle, Kenny, and Cartman sneak into an R-rated movie, and it warps their fragile little minds. Soon, their indignant parents declare war on Canada, and our young heroes are America's last hope to stop Armageddon.
Well, that's fine. Canada's not even a real country anyway.
I fucking love jokes about Canada. I don't know what it is, but they always make me laugh. I don't get like upset or offended or anything.
It's because Canadians have a sense of humor about
why would you?
How ridiculous we can be.
I can't believe this cartoon made fun of the country I'm from. But they also make fun of every other country, including their own country.
If a Canadian movie on like that was like if a Canadian cartoon came out and somehow reached the heights of South Park and did like the reverse, and made fun of America, they would throw a shit fit because they're a dish. Maybe even a war.
Well, I think that if those people that would throw a shit fit about that don't understand that they're also making fun of America throughout this entire movie. The entire movie is making fun of like the American institution. Like that's kind of what this whole movie is about. Is that like we're so stupid that we do these dumb things.
We just want to bomb all the celebrities as Canadians, and they just want to kill Terrance and Phillip and destroy Toronto.
Someone should make a live action Terrance and Phillip.
I think also at the end of the day, them bombing Toronto is because they're like, what's a city that all Americans
I think that's the only
know?
city. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Vancouver and Toronto.
Well, there's the episode
and Montreal.
There's the episode where they go to Canada.
Maybe a lot of people probably think Montreal's a part of the United States because of how often it's mentioned in like cop dramas and stuff. They're like, he came out of Montreal. Like, there's probably Americans who think Montreal is a place. In the United States,
from the States to Canada.
There's that episode where they go something to do with Terrance and Phillip, but they go to Canada. It's like the Wizard of Oz, and they go from country to or from province to province or city to city even, and it takes them like a day.
Yeah.
Even though to travel across Canada is one of the largest land masses on the planet.
I think that like Trey Parker and Matt Stone are also very intelligent people who understand that they have a very large Canadian audience who will appreciate that as comical and not like worry about the fact that Canadians will be upset because we're not going to be upset about it.
Canadians are very self-deprecating, nice people for the most part. Obviously, there's outliers, there's dicks, and there's
and we also like we also understand that like we are taught a lot about American culture as Canadians, and they are not.
They know nothing. They think that our heads open from the middle because of South America.
No, I agree with them about the eyes. When I've met some Americans, and it's not like they're trying to open their eyes wide, but for some reason their eyes are just wider. I don't know about the mouth thing. Is my mouth yapping? I don't know. Maybe it's yapping right now.
It does look like it. It certainly is yapping. That's for sure.
Yeah, come on, guy.
No, I think that this was not my first introduction to South Park, but it was definitely my grandest introduction to South Park. And as I was saying before, like I think that they are supremely intelligent dudes. Their entire writing staff, who they've had a lot of their writers have been on since the beginning.
I can shed a little light too about why this is a musical. Trey Parker and Matt Stone have gone on record many times,
I like musicals.
saying that they wanted to make musicals exclusively, and then the
Dope.
stupid South Park fucking Jesus fights Santa viral video thing happened, and they had to write this pilot. That's why there's so much music throughout South Park too. But if you look, Cannibal the Musical happens way before South Park is ever.
Wait, are you telling me that Cannibal the Musical is a musical? And these guys wanted to make musicals?
They had to get their foot in the door. See, the thing is,
Yeah.
you don't need to, but sometimes a way to
Wait, was Cannibal the Musical after the Santa thing or before?
It was like
what they do, they
like
wrote
right
it before
between,
but made it after.
like right
Right
around
between.
the same time they made that thing, and then they started pitching. So that's how I understand the story goes. And they wanted to make like adult musicals, and like
Nice.
that's why specifically Trey Parker too, because if you notice, he wrote
His name is very heavily
he's
dominant.
like the Rob McElhenney is to It's Always Sunny, where you see the three of them are synonymous with the show, but he's always the creator and the like lead writer, and you know what I mean. And that Trey Parker is sort of the brains, and Matt Stone is sort of his cohort.
I would even call him his muse. I think that he needs him as like like an echo chamber almost, to be like
or whatever.
Well, it's like if the three of us were to make something together, and like I tried to make something by myself, Jason tried to make something by himself, and you tried to make something by yourself. Those three individual things would probably not be as good as if all three of us were working together to make something.
Right. And Glenn Howerton said it best on their recent podcast. He always brings up the fact that the three of them aren't like a traditional writing team. They're more like a band. They write all their songs together. They write all their scripts together. They travel together to do stuff. They're friends in real life. They've been together since the start. They haven't really brought anybody else in. Dee is not really part of the writing. She's just a character on the show. And I feel like South Park, Trey Parker, Matt Stone, I kind of see them in the same light, where the two of them are Garfunkel and Simon Garfunkel, a two-man. I almost said Garfunkel.
I like Garfunkel and Simon, those guys.
I almost said Garfunkel and Oates because that's that great comedy duo. But
that's what happened when the two great bands fell apart. Garfunkel and Oates got together.
Or Hall and Oates, or those
Simon and Garfunkel.
I gotta say, I do love musicals though. It's like what's not to love, and you usually get us like prior to this. Like, when have you ever had an adult tiered musical or whatever, right?
I'm sure there's some Monty Python that's a musical.
Monty Python is a good call, yeah.
But even Monty Python probably doesn't get as raunch as this movie does.
They get dry British raunchy. They get 70s dry British raunchy. You might see half a boob, and it might be that's the joke. It's just somebody's boobs out.
The whole song is about half a boob, like just the under boob or whatever.
Yo, I'm not gonna lie, the under boob is nice.
Okay, well, Caleb's tired now.
Okay, thanks for not lying about that. We all thought you were lying the whole time about it. All those times you said, I hate underboob. We were like, fucking Kalen's a liar.
Sure, he's a closeted underboober.
I like the way that sounds. I like the way it rolls off your tongue.
But underboober?
I got a question for you.
Do you think an app called Underboober would do well?
That sounds great.
You guys want to start a band called Underboober?
I will. Can I play the triangle?
Maybe we just make a sister podcast called Underboober, and we just talk about movies where there's classic underboob showcased in it.
I'll sign up for that too. I'll do it.
We have fun.
I'm thinking of the logo already. Just underboob. It's like it cuts off at the top of the screen. And it's just like it looks like a butt at first, but then there's a belly button in the middle of the words.
Nice. But okay, so let me ask you guys this: how did they get George Clooney? Because that's actually George.
I'll tell you exactly how they got George Clooney.
Oh, can I speculate first?
Yes.
Ooh, let's hear the speculation.
I do know exactly how they got him.
Okay, so George Clooney was not at the height of his powers at the time. What
was this? 99, 2000?
1999,
99, I believe. Yeah.
99, yeah.
The same year as Star Wars Episode 1, There is a reference to Star Wars Episode 1 in this movie, which is very weird, but I will talk about that later if we ever get back to it.
Done Batman and Robin.
He'd just done Batman and Robin. So like he was not at the height of his powers. He was on ER forever, obviously. He was like a throb, a heartthrob.
When did he become his height? Oceans?
Well, he kind of had to.
He has like a weird. He doesn't have like a skyrocket. He's like a slow burn where people are like he becomes this person that everybody knows.
Yeah.
And I think that this is right in between where he hits the Ocean's powers, where he starts to skyrocket, and after Batman and Robin, which really kind of tanked him hard. And he's also a funny person. Like he is a funny person, and he has a good sense of humor. And I assume that he had some sort of run-in with like Trey Parker or Matt Stone at some point where they just pitched him the idea, or he was just kind of like they approached him and he probably just liked South Park and was like, yeah, I'll be in the movie as a doctor. Sure. No, none of it's true.
You're kind of close.
Okay.
So in the episode Big Gay Al's Big Gay Boat Ride, Stan has a dog who is a homosexual. And that's the reason why he takes his dog to the boat ride, and they go through the adventure, and Stan learns it's okay to be gay. The dog is voiced
that's right,
by George Clooney.
Yes.
So I imagine they met at an industry party. Yep. They met at an industry party, and Trey Parker and Matt Stone were probably zooted, and so was George Clooney, and they probably giggled over how it would be hilarious if he had an uncredited, or I think he might actually be credited, but it'd be hilarious if he, one of the biggest stars of the day in like 1997 or 98, does a cameo as a gay dog making little whimpers and barks.
So wait, now you're speculating?
I'm speculating about how they met, but I'm telling you why he was in this movie. It's kind of like with Jennifer.
Okay, so he was the dog. Yeah, okay. He was the gay dog.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jennifer Aniston's in an episode, but she's like uncredited in that, but it's obviously her. And they used
Matt
to do
says
that.
we should follow Britney Spears on Instagram.
Probably not gonna. Well, I think I might already actually. I'm not gonna do that.
Are you a slave for her, Jace?
Yeah, it's very toxic. Oops, I did it again.
Oh God, cancel this podcast. Jason, I can hear the sirens. They're coming for you. You're gonna be arrested again.
Other songs by Britney Spears. So that's the thing, that warning that they put up, and it's at the end of the movie. If you watch the credits, they have the actual people in the movie, and then these people were definitely not in the movie. They used to do a lot of have cameos and have them uncredited. So they kind of had to have that warning, just not only because they were doing really bad impressions of famous people, but also because so they could sneak in actual famous people and have them do little tiny bit parts, like a substitute teacher, Jennifer Aniston, or a literal dog, George Clooney.
Arjun just called out your intro to the movie, Steve.
Oh yeah, Arjun. Yeah, we just talked about that actually. 13th birthday.
There you go.
Yeah, he's here. He's watching.
Hello, Arjun. Welcome.
I wrote something in my notes and I forget the connection exactly, but I wrote get high with pottery, and it was something about, I think it was Matt was in his school, and his teacher's like, you don't need to get high with pot, just try something else, get high with pottery or something like that. But I forget what that had to do with this movie.
What?
Enjoying Fetus Lady is no longer on South Park, and it was interesting to show scenes from around South Park and see how far it's come. I don't know what the get high with pottery thing would be.
I don't know what any of this means. Okay, why don't we go into the synopsis of the movie? Or not synopsis, but like, why don't we just like walk through the beats?
So speaking of walking, is this the first time they've been animated walking?
Well, they
you know
did,
what I mean? Like,
yeah, it is. But they also did that great joke where it's like the animation sucks, and then they do the walk to the side, and they're just like,
it's like the shitty, like they look like weird penguins. Yeah,
love it.
But at the very beginning, Stan is
Yeah,
walking through the
the
city.
animation's all crappy.
Stan is walking through the city, and his legs are more animated. And I didn't really keep track of if they did that through the rest of the movie, but this definitely does have some things that would go on to add to the evolution. Like soon after this, they hit grade 4, and then they start doing things where you see like almost like you can go around Cartman now and see him kind of in more 3D. Yeah. And then as it gets more like now, it just looks like an animated show that has a style to it, and that cardboard look hasn't been, or like. Whatever.
Well, it was a mixture of cardboard and felt or something, I think, right?
Yeah, or construction paper, and that it doesn't look like that now. The city.
Yeah, this is something that I was trying to talk about earlier when we were in Akira episode, which is like there are certain shows that they evolve their animation style to become greater than it is, or to like show it from angles that you couldn't possibly conceive of based on how it is traditionally or how it started as. And this is a perfect example, which is like everything is very flat, specifically like to the point that even in this movie, they have like shadows behind them that are so flat right behind them that they look like they're just laid on top of another piece of paper, right? Like that was their whole thing. And they even have like textures and stuff that you don't really see anymore when you watch the show in their later seasons.
I noticed that in this movie, there's a few shots where it's like, ooh, that actually looks like it's like a cardboard box painted green. Like you can kind of see the waviness to it or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's all done in like they had a custom like computer program to do that. The only thing that was actually filmed on felt and construction paper was the original pilot and the original like Jesus versus Santa. Then they were able to reproduce that look like in Photoshop and After Effects kind of thing. And for many years people thought you can make it look so high fidelity because it's so lo-fi that people thought that it was still that style of animation. But then you'll get into even in my background for the people watching the Zoom, that Cartman has shade, like it has shading, it's Cartman turning into the Akira monster, has shading, it has like a little bit more detail than regular South Park. And then if they did this same shot now, they would just fully animate it or do it in CGI. There was a period where they did some extra stuff in CGI. I think that comes from this movie because when they started getting more. When Kenny's going down to hell and they show those fire monsters pulling apart, and then they show those like demons with Hitler's head on them and stuff, that CGI actually holds up pretty good. I thought it looked fine.
Well, especially when you're pairing it with you know what
literal
I mean?
Cardboard,
yeah. When it's contrasted to
I had it on PlayStation. If it's the same one anyway, you pee on the snowball and make it a yellow snowball and then throw it at them. It was like South Park dodgeball or something.
Yeah, it does extra damage if you pee on it first.
Yeah.
I will say that like within the movie, I was pleasantly surprised at how tranquil and nice when Kenny died and he's slowly going up to heaven, how the Starfield had depth to it. It wasn't like he was just on a flat, shitty, like it expanded into like, their world is this, but this is like, your world as well, viewer. And I was like, oh, this is cool. And I did appreciate that they didn't like just put a random song in there. They made an original song, again, like performed by Trey Parker. And
like,
you're like,
you're going to hell.
But it's like, like it starts with like and then he goes up to it, and you're like, oh, it's like a beautiful song, and it's like, no, and he falls down into hell. It's good.
Did you notice
I think every song was an original song, wasn't? I think like there weren't any.
Well, that's what they do. Like they don't even in but we'll move on to it when we go through the month, but like Team America, like even like the montage songs are all like, they're performed by them, and it's great because it's part, you feel like you're part of the joke even at that point. You can put, if you're making like a home movie or whatever, you put a song that you think would be funny paired with the thing you're doing, and that's what most comedies do, right? They'll put like, you're the best you're the best around with like a boxing
You're the best.
trailer. Yeah.
Genre is called a pastiche. Kaylin, if you want to know what it's called, Weird Al does them famously. They're called also known as style parodies, where they take a genre of music or a particular song. Like what Weird Al would do is when he couldn't get the rights, you're allowed to parody whatever you want, but he had a rule where he had to ask, and if they said no, a lot of times he would still make a song in the style of another artist or another song.
Right.
He did, you know,
You're also allowed to cover things. Like you
Yeah.
can take a famous Beatles song, and if you do a cover of it, you basically have to pay nothing for the rights to use it.
exactly, unless they raise.
I don't understand.
Unless the Beatles house raises such a stink and sues you so hard that you have to give them a writing credit. There's also interpolation, which is another whole thing where you can actually just steal somebody's song.
Don't you have to pay for that though?
If you give them a writing credit, a lot of times they'll just let you jack their riffs.
And then that way they get recognition or whatever kind of thing.
But the weird thing about interpolation is like they get a writing credit, but you would never know unless you read the like credits for the song, which basically don't even exist anymore with
sometimes
physical media.
Right. Well,
Anyway,
you know me, I still buy CDs.
There was a time where I thought that the song in Team America, Freedom Costs $1.05, was like literally how much money you had to pay to be able to make a pastiche of something. It's like freedom costs $1.05. Where you just have to pay.
Maybe it's like $105.
Where were you when they built the ladder to heaven? I feel like are from the same artist in universe, even though it's like Alan Jackson on the episode. They're basically if there was an artist making these kinds of songs. Where were you when they built that ladder to heaven?
You know what? That would be an excellent addition to their filmography. Would be if they made like a Spinal Tap style movie where it's the band that made all the songs for Trey Parker and Matt Stone movies.
That would that's a fucking great idea.
Now you're a man.
Yeah. A man.
Oh, speaking of, so we open with Stan. There's this new movie, Asses of Fire, by Terrance and Phillip from Canada. And he's on his way to go see this movie in his quiet little redneck mountain town. He gathers his friends. They get to the kiosk or whatever. 4 tickets to 5 because they had like 5 tickets to Ashes of Fire, please. And then the kiosk guys is all like, no. They get a bum to sneak them in. The opening shot. So this is where I'm going with the question. Is that a tucked in penis? Is that a Lambs with Wolves shot? Do you remember the opening of Asses on Fire? It looks like
I thought it was a butt. I just thought it was a butt.
What? Look at it. Find a picture on your internet right now.
It looks like it's supposed to be the top of a butt. Like, you know, like if the pants were pulled down a little bit, you're looking at the top of the butt.
I saw it as a penis tucked in.
Well, you saw what you wanted to see, Kaylin. You saw what you wanted to see.
Kaylin loves a big schlongger donger.
No, I want to hide them.
I want to hide them between my legs.
No, the movie's called Asses of Fire. It's about two
well, that's why I was
foul-mouthed Canadian farters.
Hilarious. Oh, the very first one, the very first joke, man. It's so simple, but it still cracked me up.
Which one?
I think it was like, what did the Spanish person say to whoever?
Oh, yeah. Was it eat penguin shit, you ass splunker? Because that made me laugh.
So
this movie made me laugh
friend
out
was
loud.
saying what's up to his Mexican, or no, this is what my dyslexic friend said to his Mexican friend. Hey, whore. I think that worked.
Yeah.
Because, you know, Jorge is George.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Dyslexic.
Also, you tripping over the word dyslexic 4 times trying to tell that joke.
Yeah, it's funnier than the joke you told.
Yeah. I ran into some moments in this movie where I'm surprised these don't exist in real life in 2022 because of how whack this world is.
Go on.
And when they come out of the movie and all the kids go see the movie and they're all swearing like sailors. And the school tries to like rehab them out of swearing by Mr. Mackey just singing the dumbest song ever, which gives them more swear words. That, and then the V chip later in the movie when Cartman has a literal chip in him that electrocutes him when he swears. Like the V chip is lampooning the like box scramblers and net nanny and all that shit. But I'm surprised that you know, in this crazy dystopian society we live in with PC culture and everything, I'm surprised these things haven't been tried. I know it's a little inhumane.
There's parental control or whatever, like you can put on a thing, but it's also just kind of in a bigger like picture, just censorship in general.
Yeah.
I can tell you that there have been summer camps that take homosexual children that electrocute them to try and get rid of a homosexuality. Yes,
I feel like that's different though. I feel like that's
it is different, but it is kind of the same. Like if they're trying to remove something that is not really like it doesn't. You can't like. I mean, I guess you could stop people from swearing. You can't remove homosexuality, but like it's also like not a big deal as well, right? Like swearing is not a big deal, and it's so crazy to me that curse words are a thing that people still care about.
The upside to those gay conversion camps is that people usually go there and become more gay because they just get immersed in homosexuality.
They're just surrounded by other gay kids, and they're like, no.
If I ever had sex addiction, I don't think I'd ever go to like a sex addiction meeting to like curb it.
Oh man, other sex addicts, man.
Yeah.
What a great place to get. No, but so in regards to swear words, I think the idea of like, oh, you shouldn't say this word is so ridiculous. Like, oh, instead of saying damn, say darn. So you're changing the words, but the feeling or whatever that you're trying to express is still the same. Yep. Like it's foolish.
I mean, saying damn instead of darn or saying frick instead of fuck kind of is better to do around kids that don't actually know the words yet.
Say poo instead of shit, okay? Like, you know, bull
but not
poo,
instead of like
head.
Not using lighter swear words around kids who have never heard the real swear words. I'm sure is fine to do. You're not going to cause any problems. But if you ingrain kids with don't say fuck, they're just going to want to say fuck. That's why it's a common parenting tactic to be like, if a kid starts saying fuck, don't react to it. Don't say
exactly
that. You just don't,
because then you're drawing attention to it.
Yeah, and then they just move on from it. I saw a TikTok today that was like, the kid's like, can we have lesbians for dinner? And the dad just is dying, like he's trying so hard not to just like pop. And he's like, what do you mean? She's like, it's like spaghetti. And he's like, do you mean lasagna?
Nice.
Yeah.
Also, like the whole V chip is it the reason it's in the movie is so that Cartman can turn into a Super Saiyan at the end. It's not there for any other reason other than for that to happen, right? Like,
do they like Dragon Ball Z? Does that mean they like Dragon Ball Z?
They love.
Of course, they love anime. Yeah, they love
video
it.
Games. They've played all the Final Fantasy games. That's what they do in between.
You know this for a fact.
I know this for.
Did you play with them? Did
No,
they call you a toad?
No, but they talk. They're very candid when they do documentary stuff. They talk about everything.
Nice.
They're regular dudes. They're regular dudes who make fun of both sides of arguments, and it's very refreshing because they're kind of in that camp of everything's funny or nothing's funny.
Balance.
Yeah, which has its limits. You can take that in the wrong direction and just have a show where the white people are saying the N-word, you know. But
I think they only had one episode where they addressed the N-word, and then I think Isaac Hayes quit or something.
No, Isaac Hayes quit because they quit because they made an episode about Scientology, and he's a Scientologist.
Ah, yes, right.
And then they have that episode where they just use clips of his voice.
Yeah.
And then he gets mauled to death by a bear. It's fucking amazing. Fuck Isaac Hayes for being a bitch.
Fuck Scientology.
Fuck Scientology.
Well, I mean, he was around for a long time, so.
Jeff was an integral part of the series.
I'm going to retract what I said. Not fuck Scientology, but whatever you choose to follow or believe in.
I also guarantee you that was not his decision. That was like the church told him, if you don't like tell them to stop, you are out of the church. Yeah. And he had to choose the church over them, and so he chose the church.
Stuff over the years that I've read, it seems like he was deeply, deeply disturbed and hurt by the anti-Scientology episode. I think it's the trapped in a closet.
It's a pretty intense episode. If you're a Scientologist, I can imagine being very, very upset by that episode. Like, it would be. I mean, I don't have anything.
It's the trapped in a closet episode, right? With
Tom Cruise. I don't remember, but I do. I remember the episode very like explaining to me what Scientology was, and me being like, "What?
Oh, yeah,
This is what Scientology is? Wow, right. Crazy."
Right.
Maybe I want to be part of this religion because it sounds cool as fuck.
That's how they get you. They get you by it sounding like it's Battlefield Earth, and that's your literal what you believe in. But it's a cult. It's all cult mentality.
All religions are cults, Jason.
I know, but this one is like a literal cult. Like the definition of cult.
Is a literal cult the one where they kill you or where you die at the end?
And it's all sorts of stuff. It's indoctrination. It's
Again, I will say all religion.
I know, but
the same thing.
Any kind of group gathering is a cult. Can we just say that?
The difference between Scientology and
outdoor shows are cults.
The difference between Scientology and like mainstream religions is that a lot of powerful people who are very wealthy are a part of Scientology, and they contribute a lot of money. If you look at the behind the scenes sort of like
documentary thing.
Yeah, actually, in that there's a couple of documentaries, but like when they do sort of like a gathering every year or whatever, and it's reminiscent of an Oscar show, even more grandiose because they have more disposable money for it. Like because of the amount of people that are willing to contribute, it looks like an award show. It's not a religious kind of gathering.
I agree with you that all religions are cults. But when I say cult, I mean the idea that like if you're a Christian or a Catholic, you can be a casual Christian or a casual Catholic.
Yeah, like only on Christmas.
You can't be a casual Scientologist.
You can.
That's a good point.
Yes, you can. You definitely can.
Because I feel like you have to pay into it, and
you do. But if you don't pay, you don't get up to the next level where you learn how to levitate shit with your mind or whatever they tell you. but like you can still be casual. You can just be like a Sunday Scientologist or whatever. Like you don't have to go every day and you don't have to pay money. But the more money you pay, the more powerful you become within the church, which is exactly how it works within any other church.
Because when I think of cults, I think of Scientology, but I also think of like, Waco.
So, Jason, let me ask you this question. If you had $2 million that you could give to Scientology or you could give to the Catholic Church, do you think that either or would not elevate you within the Catholicism or the Scientology? Like if you were to come to the Catholic Church and be like, I have $2 million to donate to you guys, they wouldn't be like, all right, here's your fancy hat and your fancy shirt, and now we're going to get you on a one-on-one call with God. All right, God's on the phone. Here you go, Jason.
Hello, this is God.
Definitely I am God. Thank you for your $2 million. What miracle can I perform for you today?
When I think of the difference, though, I think of, but you know what I mean, right? I think of cults like.
I definitely know what you mean, and I am playing a little bit of a devil's advocate, but I am specifically doing that to highlight the fact that Scientology is no different than any other religion. It's the exact same thing. Yeah.
Right. It just feels a little bit more old school cult, like the stereotype cult.
Well, the difference between Scientology is that it was created in the 60s instead of like the fucking 1260s or whatever.
Before, like Mormonism is the most.
I thought it was like a graphic novel or something.
It was a book. It was a sci-fi book written by L. Ron Hubbard in the 60s, and he was like, "This shit's fire. I'm going to turn it into a way to make money more than just selling the books." And he started telling people that it was real. And because a lot of people are dumb as fuck, they were like, "Oh, cool." And then the religion of Scientology was born.
Well, there was that thing on the radio where they were doing like radio theater about like some alien shit or some shit like that, and then the people listening thought it was real.
Yeah, Orson Welles.
Orson Welles reading War of the Worlds, or they performed it, and people thought it was real. And People are dumb. Like
Yeah.
like you're a smart person.
Oh my God, the building tops are falling down as we speak.
But look at the
aliens are here. They even said at the beginning of the broadcast, this is not real.
Yeah.
This is a broadcast. And people were like buying canned goods and looting and shit.
Into the alt-right conservatism.
Well, who was there at the beginning? How often do you start when you switch over to a radio channel? Do you start at the beginning of the segment? How often is that?
Constantly.
So now we know that if Kalen was there during the World of Worlds broadcast, he would be looting like the home hardware, being like, I need a ladder, a really tall ladder for some reason.
Which brings me to my next point.
Oh, okay. What is it?
Yes, I just saw the new Terrance and Phillip movie. Who wants to test me? I said, who wants to fucking test me? That's one of the lines that I quote at least once a year. Oh, Jason's having some technical difficulties, but he'll be back.
Yeah, something happened.
The who wants to fucking touch me though? I don't know what it is about me, but I laugh at it, and two, I like saying it because it's like, ooh, you're such a special person. You just saw a movie or some shit like that or whatever. I'm like the literal sense. Did you guys have any quotables from this movie? Like any earworms, I think is the expression, that you kind of like repeated maybe outside of the movie afterwards or, throughout your life kind of thing?
We used to sing Uncle Fucker at each other all the time.
I used to say I once farted on the set of Blue Lagoon all the time.
I used to say that all the time. I said it.
I once farted on the set of Blue Lagoon.
And then he slaps her. I used to say that so much that I forgot where it came from. And then many years later, I was just watching this movie, probably when I was like, 26. And I was like, oh, that's where that's from. And I'll never forget. I'll never forget. But it was one of those things that you say for years and years and you forget where it comes from. There's a couple of those that I have. I don't know what movie it's from, but there's a sports movie.
Tell me. Say the line.
At the end, the sports, you might actually remember what movie this is from. And if you fill this in for me, I'll love you forever. But the guy goes, man, they really kicked the poo out of them. And the guy next to him goes, poo. And it's from a major league movie, or it's from like maybe Dodgeball, but I don't think it's from Dodgeball because that's
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about.
They really kicked the poo out of them. Poo?
Oh, basketball?
Not basketball.
Oh, I know what I think my favorite.
I've seen basketball literally 100 times.
Okay.
My favorite.
Is it the end credit of the? Oh, did you guys see the end credit of this movie? Did you stay long enough to watch the end credit?
No.
When Ike eats a rat or whatever.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Steven?
I was gonna say my favorite. I think my favorite moment in the whole movie is when after like the Terrance and Phillip craze has kind of spread, and then it shows like a spelling bee on TV, and the teacher is like, the word is forensics. And the kid is like, fuck that. Why should I fucking spell forensics? It's so funny. I mean, what comes after is when he writes "suck my ass." It's not as funny as him being like, why the fuck should I spell that shit? That's very funny. Like, it's extremely funny.
To say it's easy, MK, constantly. Actually, Mr. Mackey, MK was just like a thing for a lot of me and my friends to just say all the time. Oh my God, you killed Kenny. Definitely.
Oh. I have one to add to our counter. This is the third movie with blackface in it that we've done.
Was it really black? Oh yeah.
Why do we have to have a counter for that? Stop.
We don't. But it stood out to me. I'm like, oh my God, there's another one. We've now done 3. Tropic Thunder, Beacon Rewind, and this.
I didn't know you could have
Well, I haven't been there for 2 of those, so I don't count a counter.
Jack Black's in 2 of those movies too. Blackface in one of those movies. I've never seen a movie where I would felt I felt that they could possibly do a racist accent of Swedish people, and it feels racist. And this I was like, wow, that's a lot, guys. But that whole sequence, they say the F slur in this. They say the R word.
That's why I said earlier, I think this is South Park before it found its stride, because it doesn't really need to lean on those things anymore.
It also grew with PC culture evolving and growing.
Yeah, and I understand that those two guys, they were, like teenagers in an era when that was like part of the vernacular. Like it wasn't as offensive as it is today, obviously. But it is a little bit scarring when you watch it and you're like, ugh, they could have used a different word. They didn't need to throw that there.
There's a couple F slurs in this, but there's one that stuck out to me where he just says it to somebody else, and it just I
started writing that stuff down. I started writing it down, and I decided I didn't want to write it down because I didn't want to bring it up and like stir the pot kind of thing, to be like, let's mark off every time they said something they shouldn't have said, because I understand this movie was made in 1999 and it was different then. But I will use that as a springboard for a point that I was hoping to make, which was that I think that these guys are extremely smart. They found a formula shortly after this movie, which has still proven true to this day, which is taking two sides of an argument and presenting them both, and sometimes leaning a little bit towards one, sometimes leaning a little bit towards the other, but always presenting both. And
also
sure,
exaggerating them.
Of course, yes. They're both blown out of proportion every single time. And that is a very good way of writing, because you're never going to alienate anybody, but you're also going to show just how ridiculous everything is all the time, because the world is ridiculous and everybody gets upset about everything. And I think that they understand that, and they have understood it since the beginning. My problem is that not everybody that watches South Park is going to be able to analyze it and understand that that's what's happening, and they're going to glue themselves to one side, and they're going to see the other side as bad. And the one thing that like I have an issue with in terms of that sort of writing is that the people that are watching South Park, yes, we watch it as adults who are developed, our brains are developed, we're able to analyze things and understand things, but also there are kids that watch it and they only stick to the crew teamer, and they're only going to siphon off the offensive jokes and repeat those to each other at school. They're not going to think of the subtext, and they're not going to analyze it, and they're not going to grow from it for a while. And some of those people don't grow from it ever. And they end up becoming toxic adults who just still think that saying those words are funny, or repeating the offensive shit without actually analyzing why those things are being said. And anyway, I'll cool off. What do you need to say, Jason?
So you have to remember that this is at the height of basically the opposite of where we're at now when it comes to political correctness. We had the most popular most popular shows, the most popular character on television characters were Stone Cold Steve Austin, Jerry Springer's.
Where are your numbers? You're making this up.
Jerry Springer,
yeah, he was up there. Yeah,
he was definitely
Stone Cold Steve Austin was one of the most popular figures in the late 90s because of the time, the era. And
I mean, I know the Stone Cold 316 or something. I think that was a thing,
Austin
right?
316. The Attitude Era of WWE, WWF at the time, South Park, and Jerry Springer were sort of the three headlining entities that sort of had trickled down effects onto everything in pop culture. So calling somebody a retard was fine, perfectly fine, and it had been fine up until that point. And then somewhere after 9/11, people got real introspective and started to sort of evolve. The rise of the internet as well, that people started to like really become introspective and realize, we're hurting people with our words. Maybe we should hurt people with our words less.
It's also because people who were being hurt by those words were able to have themselves a voice, and like we were able to connect with them. And I had a different experience myself. I don't want to get too deep into it, but like a lot of the words that are hurtful that people say, like they do affect me in a way that they might not affect other people. But I do appreciate the fact now that when you say some of the words that are said in this movie, almost anyone can groan at it and be like, ugh, like it's not just me anymore, it's other people as well. And like I remember there was a time when I was maybe like 17, 18, trying to like get my friends to calm down on saying certain things, and they'd be like, and now they're also like, who would ever say such a thing? And I'm like, you would say it when you were younger, idiot.
I don't disagree with that, but there's one, like I was thinking about this the other day, or I don't remember when I was thinking about it. I do not disagree with that whatsoever, but there is also on the flip side of it, like let's say someone calls me, oh man, you're a banana, like whatever. They say something that means nothing to me.
Yeah.
So to give an example, someone calls me a banana. That means nothing to me. Like it just, and I'm not saying that words aren't rooted in very deep emotions and whatnot. I'm not trying to downplay it at all, but at the same time, giving it power, do you know what I mean? Is just adding to it. If that makes any sense.
I understand what you're saying, but I disagree with you. I think that the words already have power. That's the reason they have power is based on history. It's not based on personal reaction. It's based on history.
Right. But if you know who you are, if you know who you are and you're comfortable with who you are, it doesn't matter what anyone says. Right? I think that's
of course, but it doesn't mean that those words still don't hurt coming from somebody that you care about. If somebody that you care about says a word that is hurtful to you, it's different than a stranger. If a stranger says something to me, of course I don't give a shit about what they say. But if somebody that I care about, that I'm with on a daily basis, or is my friend that I interact with and I want to be involved with, says something like that, it makes it hard for me to want to be around that person, right? The stranger doesn't matter because I'm going to leave the stranger and I'm never going to be with them again. But if it's somebody in my life all the time, then that matters. At the end of the day, getting them to understand, it's only going to strengthen your relationship, because if they decide to understand why it hurts you and to change their behavior, that means that they're closer to you. But if they are not going to change their behavior, then at the end of the day, they're probably going to have to be cut out of your life, and that sucks. That really sucks when you have to do that.
That's definitely, I can definitely understand that aspect, because I definitely wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking more so about the stranger aspect of it. So I definitely get that for sure. Segue us, Steve.
Jeez, Louise, that was a little more intense than I thought we were going to get into.
Bill Clinton was the president when this movie was out.
Oh yeah, remember when Bill Clinton is on screen and he goes, "Oh, home off, hello America."
And the crazy thing about that ties into what we were getting into there, is that his scandal was very indicative of the time. Even like right down to the politics, it was all sexed up in 90s and gross, and there's something had to give, I feel like, and the rise of the internet. And you think, I think
this was like a few years after his malarkey or whatever,
true,
right?
But he was still the president. He was the president.
He was, yeah. He didn't get voted out of office even after admitting to getting a blowjob in the Oval Office.
And admitting to using a cigar.
And Hillary's still with him.
Yeah, because she's probably got her own psychotic.
She's a beard. She probably scissors her way to hell every night.
That's true. She probably likes to drink of the, endocrines.
She's a lizard person or whatever the Republicans believe.
Yeah.
She eats babies or something. I don't know what the fuck.
I remember something about babies.
She can only take Advil with like a shot glass full of like fetus blood or something.
Yeah, she goes to those Satanist endocrine parties.
The owl.
Where they drink virgin blood and bang kids on Epstein's fucking Lolly Express.
What's that?
So, it sucks though now, because that's real. Like, we know now, we have proof that the fucking Lolly Express was a real thing that went to a gross island and all these people were on the ledger. So like, I don't want to get into conspiracy theories.
The scary thing is,
folks, but
we only know what we know. Imagine how much more or whatever. So back to this movie. The trafficking
element of it is what freaks me out the most. Anyway, we're not going to go from how words can hurt us into.
How did South Park take us down this weird path, guys?
I got let me ask you guys this, or let me say and ask or whatever. I don't know how to, but so because I think I made a comment last week with Final Fantasy where I didn't feel that they looked like they sounded, some of the characters.
Yeah.
Watching South Park, everyone pretty much everyone looks like how they sound, or they sound like how they look.
Okay. All right, Kaylin. You're comparing a movie with hyper realistic graphics to people who everyone has a fucking oval head and the same eyes.
You have a point.
That guy sounds exactly how I thought he would.
Also pretty much the same
literally
voice.
sounds like this. Hey, guy. I'm Saddam Hussein. I want to have sex with you, John Satan.
Yeah, Saddam Hussein has a real voice. He had a real voice. And it didn't sound like that.
Also, do you guys ever wonder
the way his character looked? He had this little short boxy with this little blah 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 blah.
But do you ever notice how he looks exactly Canadian? He's got the boxy arms and legs and a trash can.
I did think about that. I was wondering about that.
What are they trying to say? What are Trey Parker?
Well, they were trying to say one of two things: Saddam Hussein is part Canadian, or all Canadians are doomed to go to hell.
Everybody outside of the U.S. actually has that.
I'm gonna drop a hot one. I'm crazier than Saddam while I'm asking who's sane. I'm about to drop the bomb. I ain't gotta use aim.
Pretty good. Did you just write that right now?
No, I've had that one for a little bit.
Okay, that's pretty good. But you did write it.
Yeah. I did write it, yeah.
But it worries me that you're gonna drop a bomb without aiming first. Where are you gonna send it?
But bombs are so big, you don't need to. And then,
I know, but I'm worried you're gonna send it to the wrong place. You just like boop, like goes straight up and lands right back down on top of you. Oh, whoops.
I don't use aim.
Where are we at in our series of
who's
things?
sane, but you say crazy or whatever. It's very similar to that line, Kaylin.
All right, why don't we go through and like talk about the specifics of the movie that we like, because we've gotten way off track. Like we really went down.
I'll try and timeline us. Okay,
I have
so
to
I'll
ask you
try and
something.
timeline us, and then we'll interject. What'd you say?
What would Brian Boitano do?
Well, what would Brian Boitano do if he was here right now? I bet you he'd kick an ass or two. That's what Brian Boitano would do.
I love the credits version of that song. It sounds like the Dropkick Murphys. I don't know if it was actually them, but the rockin' version of it.
I always just assumed that was Trey Parker again doing a cover in the Dropkick Murphys style.
Every song was Trey, yeah.
I think you're right.
Also, so I think I messaged you guys this earlier in the chat. So they didn't have to pay Brian Boitano to use his name, but I guess a few years later he was doing some charity event and he was selling T-shirts that had "What would Brian Boitano do?" or something like that, and he had to pay them to use that catchphrase.
I don't think Trey Parker and Matt Stone would care. It's probably Comedy Central where like you can't our shit because they're a corporation, and Trey Parker and Matt Stone, like I said, I'm fairly certain they're just
probably pretty cool guys.
Yeah, I worked for a restaurant a little while ago, and it was like nerd themed, and so all the things on the menu. I was about to explain it to you, you fucking asshole.
Can I finish? Can I finish?
Can I finish? Okay, I'm finished. No, everything on the menu is themed after sci-fi movies, TV shows, comic books, all that kind of stuff. And we had something on there that was themed after a McElroy brother show. If you are not familiar, the McElroy brothers are very famous podcasters of the internet. They're like internet kings. They have a show where they do basically Dungeons and Dragons, and we named an item on the menu after one of the characters. And we sent it to them for approval, and they said, "Oh, that's really cool, but don't use our shit without paying us. You cannot use it without paying us." And that was the only time that ever happened. And me being curious looked into it, and I was like, "Oh no, it went through this other company," because they have like a bunch of companies attached to them, and it definitely was not Griffin McElroy being like, "No," I doubt it. Like
absolutely yes, 100%. I love all of it
because like for me, I'm like, it's a good. If a company is willing to give you free advertisement by naming something after you in their menu, and it's a nerd bar where the culture of the bar is going to be people that like that stuff already, and they'll be like, "What's this?" and then somebody else explains it to them, then they'll know what it is, and then they might. It's like free advertising. Like, why wouldn't you want that, right? It definitely wasn't the McElroy brothers themselves. It was a company attached to them being like, you cannot use this unless you have like pay us $1 million or some shit.
Goddamn companies.
No, but
Goddamn
corporations will cut off their nose to spite their face all the time in those situations. Like if this company could possibly make, $1, $10, we want
that now instead of
twice that for them to even make that $10, right? So I think with Trey Parker and Matt Stone, they're the kind of guys to show up to I think it was either the Oscars or the Grammys on acid dressed in women's dresses.
Oscars. They were nominated for it was Blame Canada, the song.
Right.
Yeah.
And Robin Williams performed it, I believe, at that Oscars.
That's what I heard. Yeah.
And they were on acid. They showed up in dresses. I think Trey Parker had a wig that made him look like a lady.
Well, Trey Parker had the famous Jennifer
They were doing
Lopez
was
wig.
it J-Lo?
He had like the Jennifer Lopez dress that went like all the way down.
A couple years from like the previous year.
And the funny thing is like anytime somebody would ask them about their dresses, they'd be like, "Oh, it's just such a beautiful night, it's such a great night where we're all here to celebrate our industry." Like they would never answer any questions about what they were wearing.
That's hilarious.
Very, very funny, yeah. And they like if you watch them, they look so because they're on acid. They're on acid, so they're like
looking around.
they look so happy to be there. Yeah, yeah, that's quite funny. Yeah.
So our young children sneak into a movie, which is what a lot of children did for this movie. Jason, I'm surprised you didn't think of this. Just buy a ticket for another movie and then go into this movie because they have the poster right by the door.
I was kind of like Steve, and I am kind of like Steve to this day when it comes to like
being a good boy.
Being a good boy, doing like real.
Well, I'll tell you that I have tried to sneak into a movie before, and I'll give you the story right after you're done.
Yeah, all I want to say to that is one of my worst fears as a kid was doing a really mild crime and getting busted for it. Like shoplifting.
A specific crime? Did you have a specific crime in mind?
Shoplifting a chocolate bar, going into the wrong theater. Like my friends movie hopped all the time. They would go buy a movie and just spend all day at the theater and just duck around corners and avoid the they knew how to like avoid the fucking ushers. And if we go into this, we go there at this time, we can duck into another movie and nobody will notice because there will be so much commotion of people moving theaters, and you can basically see like 3 full movies if you go at this time, yada yada. And I never wanted to go.
Today's tips, ladies and gentlemen.
The only real crime I ever committed as a teenager was like drinking in a park. But when the cops would like show up to the commons, when the kids would scatter, I would already be like gone. Like
you chilled at the you said commons?
Yeah, the Halifax.
We used to do Conros back in the day.
Nice. It scared the shit out of me to get like all that happens with the theater thing is you get thrown out. Like they're not gonna like put you in jail.
I've been to jail if you guys want to hear that story too. But
I've been to jail as well. But it's dumb.
My sneaking story. I tried to sneak into the same movie 3 times and I got caught every single time. The same day? Not the same day, but over the course of the same 2-week period.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm going to go see Star Wars and then sneak into
No.
Boobies 14.
It wasn't a Big Boobies 14.
Under boobers.
It was when I was...
Wait, what was it called?
I was... Under boobs.
Under boobers.
Under boobers. The movie we're gonna write right after this episode's done. We're gonna start it and be like opening shot under boobers.
Yo, can the trailer not be anything in the actual movie? Can we make a trailer that is specifically
if I
just
ever make
trailer?
anything, the trailer is going to just be additional footage that has nothing to do with the movie. And I don't care what anybody tells me.
Kind of like Morbius.
No, I'm refused to watch a trailer for that because it's gonna suck. So I need to just.
Yeah, they also just got real fucking shit on because everything in the trailer was not real, and now everyone's complaining because they're like, "What
Really?
do you mean all of this wasn't in the
That
movie?"
trailer that I've been watching over and over every time, it's been that trailer has existed for almost 3 years.
Yeah, they put all this Spider-Man stuff into it, and all the Spider-Man stuff got taken out. Anyway, the movie that I was trying to get into was Kill Bill Volume 1, which was rated R, which is very rare for Canada. You rarely get an R-rated. 18, and you can't. It's not even if your mom walks you in there by your hand, you cannot see it. You have to be over 18 to see it. Which is insane to me. That's a rule. Where they're like
that bad even.
No, it's not. It's almost not as bad as the second one. The second one has way more nasty shit in it.
Well, the second one has the bloodbath that they had to put in black and white.
No, that's the first one.
Was that the first one?
Yeah, the second one is like it just has way more heavy thematic stuff, and it's more disturbing overall.
Did she get buried alive in the second one?
Yes, and also it's rated 14A. So like, I was able to see that part.
It's probably the censorship eased up between the time frame.
No, it's just the movie was rated less nasty. I guess.
I want to say about that is I find that realistic violence is having the hard R doesn't make any sense when a lot of horror movies have like unrealistic violence and are rated lower.
Right.
Well, that's what's crazy to me about Kill Bill Volume 1 is that the only really like insane stuff that happens is that scene where she's fighting everybody and they're getting their arms cut off and their heads cut off and it goes into blood, black and white. And that's the only real thing other than Ishii Ren getting her head cut off at the Lucy Liu getting the top of her head cut off. Mm. That's the next grossest thing. And like, that's all. And you're like, I don't think anything's been rated R that I know of since then, other than maybe like some Eli Roth like gore porn stuff or something. But like
Cabin in the Woods had an undeserving rated R.
Well, that came out when I was like in the 5th grade, so I wouldn't have wanted to see that anyway.
I thought that was after Kill Bill, though.
No, well, I had just gotten in. I was like 16, and I had just really gotten into Tarantino, and I just like watched a ton of his stuff. And it was when I started to like blossom in my film brain, where I'm like, oh, directors are the reason that movies are good. So I want to see movies made by directors and not just see movies because they're movies. And so I had this like vendetta to go see Kill Bill, and I tried over and over and over again. And this one usher just kept coming in and being like, "Oh, it's you again. Get out of here." And I was like, "God damn it." And like, I even got my friend Vince's mom to go in and buy us tickets, get the tickets ripped for us. Like she went in and like sat down, and then we were like, "Oh, our mom's in there with the tickets and we're going to go in and then get them." Because we had to go pee all at the same time or something. I can't remember the dumb excuse I came up with. And then we got in, and then she left. And then he comes in and he's like, I knew it. And I was like, why do you care, man? What the fuck? You're like 2 years older than me. Like, leave me alone. I just want to watch Kill Bill. And like, I got like 15 minutes into it that time too.
At that point.
I remember it was very funny though, because we got kicked out and we had to call Vince's mom again. And she shows up. And she comes out and she's like,
"You just spent $40."
She's like, "Are the police gonna call? Are the police gonna arrest me?" She was like she thought that she was gonna get in trouble with the police for buying us tickets to see Kill Bill.
That's a valid fear.
I guess if you've never been in trouble with the law before, but yeah, no, that was my one, and I didn't get to see it either. Like I had to wait until it came out, and then I eventually watched it, and then got to see Kill Bill Volume 2.
And you were like, "Why wasn't I allowed to see this?"
Yeah, that was the main thing. Where I was like, "Oh, I thought it was going to be way crazier. Like I thought I was going to see people getting their dicks sliced off." Which then I was able to see Django, which was not rated R, by the way. Django was rated 18A, and you fully see Jamie Foxx's cock on screen about to get cut off. And
for
you're
like a brief second.
And they're like, how is Kill Bill Volume 1 worse than this? You see a guy get torn apart by dogs?
The rules have evolved. I'm pretty sure the rules have evolved.
I think you're right, especially here. Like, I think that we have a completely different ratings board than the rest of the world. Like each country has its own
I think
thing.
each country, yeah, exactly, yeah.
And I do also believe that the ratings boards do have sort of like a vendetta against certain filmmakers. I do know that Sam Raimi in his early years was like hounded on by the film board of the United States for the Evil Dead movies, because all of his early movies were like really nasty. And they, I think it was Bruce Campbell in an interview, he was like, yeah, we made the Army of Darkness, and we took it in and we showed it to them, and we specifically shot stuff to be less scary and nasty than we did in the other two movies because we had so much issue, and they still gave us an X rating. So we took it and we didn't touch a single thing, and we took it back and we said, okay, we took out all the stuff you said, here you go. And then they rated it again and they gave them like the pass through, which is like it's just like they just won't even watch it. They'll be like sitting there on their phones like.
Well, I've heard of one trick. They do an extra crazy thing so that they can get the thing that they actually want.
Well, that's what they used to do. And then in Army of Darkness, they specifically went out of their way to just like try and get a PG-13, and they still got an R. And they were like, "What?"
Goofy Bugs Bunny movie, like it's so so not scary. Like it's about him just going and fighting these like stop motion skeletons with no blood, no gore.
And I think that like in that movie specifically, they like after the cut, they did the cut and then they did another cut where they added in a part where Ash is walking and he's like, all right. Everyone's like, thank you. And he's like, all right. Thank you. He's like, get the fuck out of my way. Like, he's just like pushes the guy over and tells him to get the fuck out of his way. And they like added that back in and they just like never caught it. And now that's in the final cut of the movie, which is funny. We should do a Sam Raimi month. But anyway,
but tonight is South Park.
Yes. That's my story of how I went to jail. I mean, never saw Kill Bill Volume 1.
And we are
sneaking in. We're getting close. Quick little, did you guys notice the alphabet in the classroom goes forwards and backwards?
No, I did not notice that.
No, but when I used to draw cartoons with paint and post them on the internet when I was like around this time, I used to use the jokes from the classroom that are really like, they're not really jokes, they're just like background posters, and I used to make posters for my cartoons in the same way. That would be like, cheese is Gouda, or like math is cool, and then like a little math equation, like how the like peas container said peas on it and the milk just says milk, and the signs for the buildings like obvious say what they are. It
looks like they just had like a font program and they typed it and put it on, and like rather than having a graphic designer come in and like try to like make it look like a real storefront, they just put like milk store or whatever like on the
now it's all stylized, and
it's because they were able to evolve. And like one thing I was kind of hoping we'd be talking about is how like Bill Hader eventually came on as a writer. And
what actually happens is that Bruce Howell guy comes on as their composer, and that's where things sort of really start to change. And then on the TV show, they click into grade 4, and they made a huge deal. All of the ads for the show were like, we're in grade 4 now. And that's one of those things that you don't see a lot on TV, especially a cartoon where it evolves like that. And from that point on is when they start dropping the like dumber jokes. The episodes become more about world events, stuff happening in the world, instead of just an episode about a dude who rolls in on in a truck that has books, but he also happens to fuck chickens.
How many school days are in a year?
I don't know, like 250 or something.
A lot. Yeah.
How many episodes before they did the switch?
Oh God.
I don't know. It doesn't.
That'd be so really dope if that was like the thing.
No, they did that as marketing because they wanted to age the show up a little bit, because it also meant that they could have the kids in universe start doing things that are slightly older,
more mature or whatever.
more mature.
Older, that'd be cool though if that was actually the case.
Well, the plot of every episode of South Park from that point on too is like they try to do some regular ass, like, we're playing cops and robbers this week, and then they get embroiled in a plot with actual criminals. You know, like,
yeah. Well, it feels like they take like a headline almost, and they're like, this is the episode. We build something around the episode, right?
Yeah,
and like I don't know if you guys have played the Stick of Truth or the Fractured Butthole, but like it's the same kind of stuff, right? They're the video games, the new video games. They're good. They're quite good. Yeah, they're almost like Final Fantasy style, like turn-based action games, turn-based RPGs, and they take a lot of like the old mechanics from the earlier Final Fantasies, and they just set it in the South Park universe, and they heighten the action in the same way that they do when the kids are imagining, like you were saying earlier, like, when you're imagining people fighting, and like, like you just want to see the action, right? Like you want to see like the lightning come out of your hand when you punch.
The great thing about those games too is they act as so now South Park is like, it's not serialized anymore. There's one, they are serialized to a degree, but there's an overarching story through the whole season, and it came from those games because the one of those games came out in a year where there was no season, and the game kind of acts as a season because of the amount of content that's in one game. It's like
they're long games. Yeah,
it's like watching a season of a show. And then after the first game came out, they started doing the TV show in the same way where there would be an overarching story. That's where PC Principal came from. There was that season where Cartman had a girlfriend.
So wait, Kaylin, you've never heard of these games before?
No.
Oh, also we should mention Jason, because I feel like maybe Kaylin is like imagining it differently in his mind. The art style in the game is exactly the art style of the show.
Stick of Truth,
like they're like it's exactly
the Fractured Butthole.
What is it? Computer? Is it a computer game or is it a console or something?
The console game.
It's on both. Yeah.
It's Stick of Truth is on PS3. You can find it for PS3. I know you have a PS3,
right? Currently, yes. I've had it for a while, and I was actually thinking about that today. I was like, ooh, I wonder how much longer it's going to last, because like I'm going to be super sad when it dies.
I only stopped using mine recently. But anyway,
it's also like it's good for, if you just want to like find collectibles and stuff too. Like you can, you play it like a regular RPG, but the graphics are like, the shitty, like
literally,
like it's flat.
Yeah.
And then the Fractured Butthole takes place during the recent episodes that are like based off of the MCU, like where they're all the different superheroes, like the raccoon and
and
all of those. And the animation style of that's a little bit closer to what South Park looks like now.
Mm-hmm.
And the fighting style's a little bit more evolved, and I think that's what they were going for. And there's DLC for it where you go to Casa Bonita, and the vampire kids are there. It's good stuff. It's funny.
Well, speaking of funny, there was a joke that I caught this time around that I don't think I've ever caught before, and I don't know how, if I just couldn't hear him or something, and it's not. So they're with the mole trying to sneak into the UA show or whatever it's called. OS show. What's it called? US.
Oh, the USO show. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're going through the list of things that they need, rope, shovel, butt for. What's a butt for? For pooping.
Yeah, that's a classic. I
don't know why I've never caught it before. I only just caught it this time, preparing for this episode, and I laughed my ass off. It was so simple and yet so hilarious.
The mole is a great character. The mole has stuck with me all of these years as being like a weird, great character.
Mm-hmm.
And Greg or whatever, the shitty, like, I'm going to steal your girlfriend character, I remember always hating.
Yeah, here's a 4.0, great average.
But also hilarious. Let's go skating. Try and catch me, Wendy.
Yeah. I suppose you are more political than we thought.
Yeah.
All right, let's go. We were told there'd be punch and pie.
I was just gonna say, should we tell the viewers that we were gonna have punch and pie for them?
Yeah, we probably should tell them from now on. We're gonna have punch and pie for every episode. If you come and watch us, you'll get punch and pie. I have no idea how we're gonna dispense the punch and pie.
It could be a drawn. We could each, you know what we could do? We could each draw punch and pie and give it to one lucky viewer every week.
Okay. Steve, you're on the hook because you're the Kaylin can draw too. I can kind of draw.
We could all draw. It'll be in your style. It'll be in his style. It'll be in my style. We'll all draw. And we could do 3. We could either do 3 lucky viewers, and then that way there's more people involved.
We just lost a viewer in that moment.
How about we gained another one?
We would have to have 3 viewers to get to dispense the punch and pie to.
Okay, we'll start with one. One person will get 3 pictures. And you ever go to the winners or whatever, and you buy a picture, but it's 3 pictures to make the picture? It'll be like that.
This is
I've painted
novel,
those.
I have to go to bed.
Well, it sounds like we are almost at that time, ladies and gentlemen. Do any of you have any, before we get into the actual closings and last words and whatnot, anything in regards to this movie that you wanted to rapid fire? What's this shit called?
I didn't write notes the way I normally do. I actually just wrote down thoughts instead of like doing synopsis style, and I got through everything. I was
nice.
Like, even little thoughts I was able to fit in, so I'm good. What do you got, Steve?
Perfect.
Probably a full page.
No, I went in this one kind of with like my feelings rather than my thoughts. And I was like, let's just go into this with feelings and see how it takes where it takes us.
Movie so well that I probably didn't.
I surprisingly did as well. I said to you guys earlier that like I don't know how or why, but almost every single one of the musical numbers in this movie I remembered all of the lyrics to, and I don't know why, because I haven't seen this movie that many times. I guess, yeah, but like I didn't. It's not like I sat there like memorizing every line to the songs when I was a kid. Like I somehow just remembered a lot of the Brian Boy and it's not like I could recite them to you now, but
once it comes on,
while it's happening, I was like, why do I know all the words to this?
I also laughed out loud to everything. Like I haven't laughed out loud.
I didn't
to a movie.
No laugh out loud.
I had a few. I told you a couple of them. I didn't like. I don't know. Again, like a lot of the writing in between the songs felt very lazy. There are a couple of moments that I thought were like that when that kid says like, "Why the fuck should I spell that?" Like that was the funniest thing. I was like, "Oh my god, that's so funny."
Sure.
And I liked a lot of the Satan stuff weirdly because it reminded me somewhat of like my own life where I'm like, oh, I've been in a relationship like this before.
Did he have a big red ass?
No. Actually, yeah. Sometimes.
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first, folks.
Yeah.
Jason, you were saying you were laughing out loud though the whole time?
I went, my brain, the movie started and my brain reverted to 14 years old. And
yeah.
My brain was trying to stop myself from doing that, I think, which was like, you are better than this, Steve. And then I heard myself say, "Here I come, God. Here I come, you fucking rat." And it's like, oh yeah, that's funny too. Yeah, that's a funny line.
I was also extremely tired after work today as well, transitioning into this new job, and maybe it was the overtired brain that was loving it especially, but like, and just like
yeah. That's actually a thing. That's a thing.
Right during the last act, during the war, my eyes were getting heavy, and I just hit my PlayStation controller and paused it and set my phone alarm for 55 minutes and snoozed, and then woke.
When you say you hit your PlayStation controller, were you exaggerating that for the story, but you actually nicely pushed the button?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
I guess I shouldn't have told the part about where I meticulously set the time, but I slept for 55 minutes and woke back up and smashed the controller and hit play. And
you set your alarm for 55 minutes specifically?
Yeah.
Okay.
I find 55 minutes is the perfect amount of time to take a nap. If you're
sounds
drowsy,
interesting.
If you're like if your eyes can't you only need really like 45 minutes for your brain to like get enough of a charge to like keep going.
Mm-hmm.
If you sleep for like 2 hours, you're fucked. But if you sleep
That's
for
true.
you
wake up more
hour,
tired than when you went in.
It's under an hour is the sweet 45 minutes to 55 minutes. Anyway, you can find more information on my napping on my nap blog called underboober.com.
With a bunch of Zeds underneath the boob, like
yeah.
you're sleeping like in a wave.
But yeah, from start to and it was one of those things where, you know how it's really annoying if you're watching a movie and the person next to you is like, watch this. Well, I was like doing that to myself in my own mind. Which isn't annoying. Which isn't annoying because you're by yourself. But I was like, oh yeah, every scene. And I kind of took my notes like I didn't want to write stuff about a song coming up. Like I didn't write that Blame Canada is such a great song that I still find very enjoyable when it was only the first act. But of course the song came up and I was laughing out loud. So
Do you guys have a favorite song from the movie?
Ooh, good question. Okay.
It's easy, okay. It's my favorite.
I do like MK. It's easy MK. I do like Kyle's mom's bitch. She's a big fat bitch.
And Uncle Fucker I really enjoy because of how shocking it is. Right at
the very beginning. Yeah.
I like the part where he's farting on the what's the mounted police officer. And the police officer's like, what's all this then? It's just like, what's going on here? But I think my favorite song is like what's it called when there's a bunch of songs together?
Like the medley?
The medley at the end, yeah.
Where it takes, okay.
Yeah, where it takes a bunch of the other songs from the movie and puts them together. I was like, that's nice that they did that, because that's something they don't even do a lot in Disney movies, but they did it in this, and I was like, they took all their good hits of the movie and made like this medley, and it's good. And they also added the La Resistance stuff into it, which is also like pretty good. As a musical, this movie is stellar, man. Like the songs are amazing. Like it's as vile and disturbing and disgusting as they are. I remember like trying to show this to my mom once, to be like, Mom, you're gonna hate it, but just listen to the musical integrity.
Weirdly enough, Trey Parker and Matt Stone hate making movies, and I feel like this is one of those situations, much like Freddy Got Fingered, where it's like the studios,
one of the best movies ever.
The studio's like, you're so big, you have to make a movie. So the person making the movie is like, okay, but we're doing it my way. And they were like, we're doing a musical. It's the only way we're making this film. Much like Tom Green was clearly like, okay, but I'm going to make a waking nightmare movie. That's just a nightmare. And it's going to be a cult classic. And that's its ceiling.
Yo, I thought cults were bad.
We didn't say that. Nobody said that.
Go back.
Yeah. Cult back. I think that it was super smart and easy for them to do a musical because the Disney Renaissance had just kind of come to an end. Like we're in the era of like Brother Bear and like we're coming up on Lilo and Stitch, like the ones that are like waning into that like digital revolution where it's like, okay, we're out of the early 90s, mid 90s. Hercules was like the last big one, I think, and like it kind of like fell down, and then Toy Story rose up with Pixar and changed everything.
Musical though, like that's more of a straight.
No, it's not a musical. There's literally not a single song in it except for "You got a friend, you got a friend. You got to remember what you got friends."
You ever see that dude on TikTok who does like the hilarious impression?
The miles from your unsafe bed.
Yeah, that's really good actually. I'm not even gonna try to do my own.
It's a rough one on your voice, but yeah.
I believe it. Did you have a character in D&D that talks like that?
That talks like Randy Newman,
singing.
Where he's like, short people, tall people. Sorry. I've now derailed my own brain. And this movie kind of was able to kind of not necessarily ride the coattails of that, but like it was an easy sell, I think, at the end of the day, where it's like, we're going to make an animated movie that's based on this hit show that is geared towards adults, but we're going to style it after a Disney cartoon show that would have been a hit movie 10 years ago if we didn't have so many curse words and Satan in it. Sorry, am I on my final thoughts, or did I cut someone off? I can't remember.
No, we were just doing, before we get to final thoughts, but these kind of feel like final thoughts.
It does feel like final thoughts. That's why I was like, am I going into my final thoughts?
Checklist. Anything on your little checklist of talking?
Right.
The body of the.
No, just remember what your best friend said.
You got a friend.
We're miles and miles from your warm bed.
I love musicals. I'm not gonna lie. I like music. It's a very fun way to tell a story, and this just shows how much fun you can have with it.
You guys know how I feel about long movies. This movie being 81 minutes and also being primarily musical, was
we've now doubled. We've doubled the length of the movie with this pod.
Yeah, coming home, and coming home tired and just being able to watch just basically a series of music videos.
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff.
The P. Diddy and Mace parody with Terrance and Phillip.
Yep.
Oh, I forgot about my Star Wars reference that I wanted to mention.
Yes. Tell us.
So it's kind of racist. I mean, it is racist. Sorry. So Star Wars Episode 1 came out the same year, and I assume they put this line into the movie based only on the Star Wars Episode 1 trailer, unless Trey Parker and Matt Stone were invited to some sort of secret meeting held by George Lucas, where he's like, okay, so I invited the top producers of all of television movies to watch Star Wars, and here we go. And then they took the line, but like there's a line where Jar Jar Binks decides he's going to get all the Gungans to help Queen Amidala in the battle for Naboo. And the breaking point is when he's like, "Use of people gonna die," to her, and they use that exact line as one of the Operation whatever. I don't want to repeat. It's called. You remember the part in the movie that's Operation really Human stupid.
Shield, I'll say it.
Yeah, it's not good. It's also got another name, which is way worse, which is the one that I was thinking. I forgot about Operation Human Shield. Yeah. And one of those guys says, "Use of people gonna die," and then a bunch of them get blown up. The white people get blown up though.
Oh, man, that's so weird. Now that I think about it, because the person that played Jar Jar Binks was.
Well, it's lampooning the fact that Jar Jar Binks is kind of a racist character, just like just like the.
And I think that in that moment, the white people get killed, not the black people, right? Like they like fuck over the white people, which is
they just leave, and it's it's George Lucas, his casual racism is pretty sprinkled through Star Wars.
Yeah, it sucks because no, he doesn't. He's just an ignorant old man. He's just an old guy who's just like, no, they're gonna sound like Caribbean people.
What if they just kind of happen to look Asian
and also sound Asian?
Also, if they're they love money and they work in the desert, and maybe they're a little.
And they also have snouts, long snouts. Yeah. Like, oh my god, George, stop!
Like this.
Georgie.
Hey,
Anakin, get back to work.
Let me take that back, huh?
So they're like kind of Italian too.
Yeah, they're like a bunch of stereotypes, but it's clear which one he is the most. They even brought that guy back for episode 2, and the Asian ones came back for all of them, but they like toned down. I think they told the voice actor like, just rein it back a little bit. And he's like, how though? I really went for the first one.
You put Ching Chong in the script.
But that's just a placeholder because they're aliens.
That's just their language. That's just how they speak.
Yeah.
Speaking of movie references, did you guys see So we actually did this movie a little while ago, 4th of July, Tom Cruise character at the rally. Yeah.
Do you think that the cripple dude was a reference to that?
Well, I mean, I'm assuming it's it's either the actual guy or the movie.
Yeah, I mean, it could be Lieutenant Dan from.
I think he
Forrest Gump.
I think he had his legs.
Thank you. Oh. Anyway, we're gonna hit over 2 hours for an 81-minute animated musical. So.
Yeah, but that means it's a good
app.
app.
I got one more. One other good little laugh that I had was when Stan and Kyle tried to warn the mole and go, ooh-ah, ooh-ah. And then the soldier's like, hey, did you hear that? Yeah, it sounds like a giant giraffe over there.
Well, earlier in the movie, he's like, if anything happens, make the sound of a dying giraffe. And they're like, well, what's the sound of a dying giraffe? And he goes, wah, wah.
He was like,
And then they just start doing it.
Hey, viewers, which one of us has the best dying giraffe?
It's like that. It's like this. It's like, listen.
That's not bad. And on that note, we'll give some final thoughts on this week's movie.
All right.
Uncut.
Which one of us, or which one of you ass-ramming uncle fuckers is going first?
I will take that title, and I will go first. I'm going to be short and sweet. And then, Steve, I'll let you follow up. And then, Jace, I'll let you close, because I feel like you have the strongest for this one. But my final thoughts are... So, what was I just about to say? What was I just about to say?
I can't hear your thoughts though, so I don't know.
Right? So you do need to. There's a certain level of. I don't want to throw the word around genius around, but you do have to have a certain level of intelligence to be able to make jokes, right?
Yeah.
And there is also, so I mean, in the moment as a kid, I'd probably be like, oh no, I'm not impressionable or whatever. Like, I don't just do what I see. But being critical and honest, yes, I would have been an impressionable person, soaking up, everything around me, the things that I liked, the things that I enjoyed, I would, emulate or adapt or use in my own kind of thing. In my journey of finding myself. And I don't know why I'm getting so deep with this silly ass movie, but I did enjoy this movie a lot. It is a lot of fun. It is a lot of holding a mirror up to society. It is a lot of exaggerating truths, exaggerating stereotypes. And what I kind of presume what they're doing is showing how ridiculous that is, right? I mean, everyone's going to kind of have their own, that's the nice thing with art, is everyone's going to have their own interpretation, what they come away with. And then also, just depending on when you see something or experience something in your life, you're going to be at a certain stage where it just is what it is. You're going to latch on to certain things. As you get older, some people mature into, another level, and they realize the satire in something, or the kind of underlying message behind something. But that being said, there was a lot of gold within this what was kind of masked as a lowbrow fart joke of a movie, and I say that with all due respect. There was a lot of messages within it. There was also a lot of fun. It's nice, like, so I was saying to you guys earlier in the group chat, everything should be taught in the form of song. I can recite songs because there's like a melody to it, and it kind of helps implement that much more onto my brain, the sequence or whatever, right? The pattern. And but it's also enjoyable too at the same time. There's endorphins or whatever, right? So it's win-win. I feel like I'm trailing a little bit, but my final thoughts on this movie are: it's enjoyable, it's insightful if you can see it. I've wondered about what I would do if I had kids and what I would and wouldn't allow them to see or whatever, or at least maybe at what stage they could see it. It is definitely, I don't think there's ever any right answer to things in life. There's, okay, let me try this, let me try this, let me try this. We're all always trying to figure shit out. But it is something that I think you should be, it's better viewed through a, mature lens, but can also laugh at silly things as well. And so on that note, I give it, what do I give it? I give it, you know what I give it? I give it a fucking fart on fire that I die from. That's what I give it.
Oh my God, you die from it? Oh my God.
Yeah, it's so good that
All right.
I die from it.
Fine. I guess that's fine.
And Steven.
Oh, me. Okay. Well, Kaylin, that was a lot of what you said. No, well, it was a little bit, but it also, like, a lot of what you said, I agree with. I think that a lot of what you said is in sentiment what I was going to say in my final thoughts as well, so I won't try and retread too much of it. I do think that this movie is a triumph of the age, and I honestly don't know how much South Park would have prevailed had this movie not come out. It was a big deal that this came out so shortly after the show had been released. It'd only been like 2 or 3 years since South Park had become a show. Yeah. And as we all know, the Simpsons movie took like 16 to 20 years to be made. And that movie, nobody really remembers it. It's like a whatever movie. But this movie, I remember every beat and syllable of songs. Like, it's kind of crazy. I will say that it is a poorly written story, and everything in between the songs it felt like filler. I liked the Satan stuff more than anything else in the movie. I even just watching it the other day, I have already sort of like forgotten what most of the kids were up to, but I do remember what Satan's plan is and what his problem is. The kids are mostly just doing stuff in reaction to what their parents are doing, right? It's like kids versus parents, and then Satan is going to rise up and take over the world. That's the bulk of the story. And if the parents win, Satan takes over the world. If the kids win, Satan doesn't. And I kind of wish to see a South Park movie where the intelligence that they have now, or have had for like the last decade, or more than that, even like probably 15 years of South Park, have been ingenious in their craft of like how they approach a script. And it's clear, very clear watching this movie that they hadn't figured that formula out yet. And they didn't approach it really intelligently at all. It's like like you said, Jason, like they just wanted to make a musical. So they probably spent the majority of their time and money on making these incredible songs and then sticking story in between those songs to staple them together. Like, what does Brian Boitano do has absolutely nothing to do with...
Was he popular at the time?
No,
I still don't know who he is. I've never looked him up. I don't want to look him up, and I don't want to know who he is. I assume he was a figure skater,
Yeah.
and he skated for the gold. But he also fought on a mountain against trolls and stuff. Like that's the beauty of that song. Is like I don't know who Brian Boitano is, but like I like that I have this imagination world version of him. And like that's it's that's another thing that makes it clear to me that like they probably came up with the ideas for the songs before they came up with the story, and they're like, all right, well, we have Jesus and Santa, so who's next? Okay, Satan. And who's the worst person in the world right now? Saddam Hussein. And Saddam Hussein was trampled to death by Boers, and the world is happy to see that he's gone. And it's like, let's use him as a villain. I will kind of harken back to what I was saying earlier, which is that I do think that a movie like this can be beneficial to people that can look at it from an analytical point. Obviously, it's a comedy. You're supposed to look at it and laugh, but the fear is that people will look at it and laugh at it for the wrong reasons and take those things home and use it as ammunition to pick on people or to make fun of people. And I can tell you firsthand that like I was at the receiving end of a lot of jokes that were directly loaded by this movie, and I am fine with that because it's been a part of my life forever, and I like this movie. So I'm not saying that this movie shouldn't exist, but I am saying that like when you make something that's directed towards adults but looks like it's for kids, sometimes you put a loaded gun into the lap of a kid who doesn't fully understand what they have, and it can be dangerous. And I don't think that that's going to affect my rating for the movie in terms of quality, but I do think that these guys are super smart, and I don't think that they weren't smart at the time. I think that they knew what they were doing, but at the same time, like I don't think that they knew what the world was going to be like because nobody did. So like it's hard to cast judgment on somebody and be like, you shouldn't have said that in 1999. It's like, oh, it's 2022. Like, come on, take it easy, Steve. And I'm like, okay, all right. But words can be hurtful, and we had that discourse, Kaylin, earlier, which is like like I understand your point, and I think you understood mine. It's unfortunate, like comedy is subjective, and the unfortunate thing about comedy is that unlike dramas or horror movies or thrillers, a lot of the time comedy ages the worst out of all cinema. And I think that will be the case until the end of time. Like everybody laughs at stuff in a certain bubble of space, but it becomes rotten. It's like a pumpkin, like a big pumpkin can sit between the year of 1994 and 2004, but as soon as you reach 2005, it's like, ooh, this pumpkin is ripe. We need to start harvesting some new pumpkins.
I bet John Carpenter would still use it.
John Carpenter could probably come back and rip it. He would make some NBA 2K4 jokes. It'd be great. But yeah, I will give this movie my famous ping pong ball trick, and I'm gonna shoot out. I'm gonna shoot out 8 ping pong balls out of a potential 20, and you can figure out the math there. I like the movie. I enjoyed it while I was watching it. I think that there is nothing there in terms of story that really will grip you, but the songs are worth watching the movie if you've never seen it. I guess I'll pass it over.
I like that misdirect. The ping pong ball in the movie trick misdirect was, but that does bring us to Jason.
So here's the thing.
Yeah,
I agree with what both of you are saying, and I think the cultural relevance is the biggest. I think that the jokes don't age great, but if you know South Park, they age just fine compared to something that has no legacy, right? Mm-hmm. This movie people will watch it. I wrote a note in my notes that I have a feeling people watching this now, if they have no knowledge of South Park, are going to react to it in a similar way that I reacted to seeing heavy metal when I was like 10 or 11. and just be confused and weirded out, but kind of like it, kind of want to know more about it. But the difference is instead of having to go back and read thousands of fucking garbage rag magazines, crude animations of boobs, well, instead you have, 25 seasons of crude animations of crudely animated breasts and the like. It's there. I see a lot of parallels there, and this movie specifically captures, it's a time capsule of an era, a bygone era, and doesn't even push it to the limit like some later episodes of South Park even do. It does have its moments, and
it was pushing it to the limit at the time, though.
That's true, but but what I'm saying is that like South Park gets so much worse because you can get so much worse. Like we were talking about earlier in the episode, how late night television is different than trying to put this in a couple thousand theaters. So anyway, that's all I really have to say about that element of it. What I will say also, though, is this movie and then Team America basically made Trey Parker and Matt Stone hate making movies. But there was a time where the Comedy Central was kind of forcing them to think about making another movie. And they were like, no, but we will make a made-for-TV series of episodes that almost made it into theaters. And that series of episodes was Imagination Land. And Steve kind of wondered what would happen if you took all of the evolution of the show and made a movie with that in mind, with everything you've learned up to a point. That movie is that movie, made for TV movie, I guess, or series of episodes that sort of makes a movie.
Was it 2 episodes, wasn't it?
It's 3 parts, I think.
Oh, okay.
It would have been about the same length as this.
Right.
Maybe a little shorter, because 3 episodes of TV is only 66 minutes.
There might have been a little bit longer episodes though. Or something.
Yeah, that's true. But they did release it as a DVD, all as one thing, kind of like what they did at the time with the old Futurama movies, and what they sort of did later with the COVID specials. And those are like, I think Imagination Land is the perfect example of what a later South Park movie would look like. And I really do like that the show is constantly evolving. And this is the end of an era movie that sort of takes everything that they learned up to that point, and we get it all. And I kind of disagree with you, Steve, where I think that they wrote the songs. I think the songs and the story all play together beautifully. It's just that the story is just a weak story that has more emphasis on the art of the music, because that's what they wanted to focus on. But I think I don't think the story is that flimsy or weak. I think it all works together as one thing. But I do agree with you that sometimes things just feel like they're just kind of happening, like when Kenny's death sequence. But I know that Trey Parker and Matt Stone, based on their films and they just like hospital comedy, right? Yeah. So they just wanted to put in, it's a movie, so they could put in this over the top, bloody, gross, grotesque.
Right. And I do remember that being like, everybody talked about that scene when I was a kid, and I was like,
so ridiculous.
It's not that funny. It's not that funny.
It's just ridiculous. They do this, it's almost the exact same thing in basketball. It's less gross, but like a kid, drinks too much and has to go to the hospital because he's diabetic, and they're like, they do every kind of comedy to the kid in a very similar vein. Anyway, we'll get to that when we get to basketball. But yeah, overall, I'll always love this movie. I think it's special. I think the fact that we were able to talk for over 2 hours about it lends credence to the cultural significance of the film. And I will say it is a film because there are explosions, but there's no car chase. My criteria is Steve hates it.
I do. I really do.
I know, it's great because that's you can't have a discussion or a debate if everybody has the same idea. That's why it's great when some of us watch a movie and others don't.
And I do want to say that like I understand their process in terms of making the show, and I think that it's much different from making a movie, because you need to have a script and you need to have everything in place. And as my understanding of how they make South Park is sometimes they'll be literally editing the show the same day that it's supposed to be aired because they have to change things.
It hasn't always been like that, though. They used to have.
I know it hasn't always been like that, but that's how it became that, and that's why it's so good and why it feels so relevant every week, is because they literally are working up until the last second.
That starts basically right after this movie. Basically, they get into season 4, and that's when the South Park we know now, that's where it starts. And up to that point, it's all the episodes are kind of like the movie, where it's a bunch of non sequiturs and it feels very disjointed a lot of the time, and a bunch of stuff is just happening, and they're making little pop culture references and jokes or like movie parodies and stuff, but it's not as like poignant and like on point.
Right.
Anyway, at the end of the day, I didn't even think about my rating until we were about to do ratings, but I think 4 to 5, a very solid 4 to 5 is I'm not going to do any nonsense where I'm like 3.9 because of it's only 81 minutes stuff that I sometimes do. I think I'm going to give it a solid 4 because of what it means to me as a movie. It's not like a 4.5 because it does have problems. I just don't like this brand of comedy sometimes, like certain elements of it, like certain words and like just Cartman being like outwardly racist in an unfunny way that doesn't really stuff I
like there's no Jew candy here.
Where
you're like, what?
One line in the movie
mean?
I did really like though was Mr. What fucking who is Mr. Hat?
Mr. Garrison.
Mr. Garrison goes, "Oh my God, you," or maybe it was Mr. Mackey, whatever. He's like, "You just said the F word," and Cartman goes, "Jew." That's fucking really funny to me.
Well, that's subversion. That's funny because it's subverting.
But it's subversion, but it also, they do this thing where they always go back and remind you that these characters are children.
Yeah.
And this movie does that a bunch in it. You know, like even
and I mean, like, even to go back and think about myself as like a 13-year-old boy, I know that I said some things that are horrible, and I would, if I had seen myself saying that now, I would slap myself in the face and be like, "What is wrong with you? Why would you say that?" But it's because you're a kid and you don't understand the repercussions, right? And that's my issue, is that they're not actually kids. They're adults writing children. They're saying things that, if it was an adult in a bar saying that, they would be probably smacked in the face by something.
Well, what they do now in South Park, I don't know how much you watch, but the adults are actually way more ridiculous than the kids, and
which is kind of like how we feel. I think it's just a product of them aging, right? Like, they were saying dumb shit, and now they're older, and they're now realizing that the shit that the old people say is.
There's a significant.
Kaylin, you don't have to raise your hand. You can talk. You can just talk.
Just give me 1 second, because it is technically still my.
Yeah.
Right.
There is a significant turning point in the series where it's like a season finale, and I think the idea is that they didn't know if they were even going to bring the show back, and everything Stan is doing, he's like, everything sucks. Like, he goes to a movie and he just hears farts, or he's playing his video game and he just hears farts. And it's just I know that's a crude, like, dumb joke way to put it, but it's also a metaphor for growing up, and how, like, for me, when a new game comes out that I've been excited for several years, and you start playing it and you're like, this is good, but like, it's not like when I was 10 and a new game would come out. It's kind of like, whatever, I'm an adult, I can afford this and I can play it in my free time, you know? And after that point, the show starts to shift more to like Randy Stan's dad being kind of a main character, and him being more of the like racist, almost like a Homer Simpson type, but turned up.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought this was America.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America. Like, all the Integrity Farm stuff in the recent seasons, like, he was the main character for like 2 full seasons. You know,
that's how we all eventually begin to feel about our parents, right? Like, we all eventually start to see our parents as dumber than we are.
Back in my day,
it's rude to our parents, but at the same time, like, our parents don't have the same exposure to modern ideology, and they are stuck in a past version of their advanced ideology compared to their parents.
Something recently that really resonates with me, and it's basically, when you're a kid, you look up to adults and you assume they're all smart, but once you hit an adult, you are shocked to find out that most adults are functionally our word. You know, like,
hey, you don't say that.
You can't really. You meet these people and you're like, how do you wipe your own ass?
I think that it's more like you.
How do you wipe your own ass?
You have
crunch it or do you fold?
God, Kaylin, you're like an adult.
Yo, that was a callback too.
That's a callback to like 15 years ago working at Boston Pizza.
I think it's more like you see your parents for what they are, and you have the courage to say something to them.
You're closer. You
don't feel like you can't say something because even if they get upset, you know that there's nothing is going to happen to you. You're not going to get sent to your room. You're not going to get grounded for talking back to them. You're just questioning their ability to think, which is
like
important.
I mean, peers, like at age 36, you meet some people and you're just like, how? I thought a 36-year-old when I was 12 was like a super genius. And you meet some 36-year-olds. It's like, how did you make it this far in life without setting yourself on fire?
Yeah. Oh, you still have both your hands?
Anyway, that's, yeah. If you didn't hear Kaylin, I give it a solid 4 out of 5.
Oh, I heard. I listened the whole time. I just covered this part while I peed.
Cool. With no real wiggle room either way. It's you know,
that's pretty high.
Very prevalent for me. It loses
but
points for being a little bit too, like, I might have rated it higher if some of the jokes aged a little better, you know. If they didn't actually say the F slur in it, I might have gave it a 4 point.
I gotta say though, like it wasn't even the language that kind of killed it for me. It was stuff like there's a part where there's like a lull and it's Cartman and Kenny and they're standing next to each other and Cartman just says, "I hate you, Kenny," and you're like, and then it like cuts and you're like, and I'm like, that's got me. But I'm like, but that's not funny though. There's nothing funny about that. Like, it's not a funny line.
His delivery is funny.
That was the spirit of the show back then too. That's the age of the show showing, because they're not.
But Kenny didn't do anything.
Kenny and Bergman are BFFs.
Some people don't need to do anything. They could just say whatever, and it's just their cadence.
Yeah, and that's the I didn't do it syndrome. The Bart syndrome. They made a whole episode of The Simpsons about how you can just say something and like it's just the delivery, but like you gotta keep it fresh, man.
It's that's right. It's just one little.
Also based off The Simpsons.
The what?
Flanderization. The concept
Flander?
that like you just become one note.
Oh yeah,
one hit wonder kind of thing.
Well, I mean that's also the beauty of South Park is that it is way beyond one note, and like I'm sorry, my 8 out of 20 ping pong balls being shot out of Winona Ryder's vagina is not a real like. I would rate this movie quite high, if I felt like the in between jokes matched the big jokes. Like there's just a lot of like fluffy stuff that I don't think needs to be in there or could have been better.
Oh shit.
Like I didn't need to see Stan barf on Wendy like 10 times in the movie. Like,
that was his gimmick.
That's his
I know, but like the gimmick is fine, but like it's a movie now, like maybe subvert the gimmick. Maybe change the gimmick. Don't have him barf that many times. You don't need to have him barf that many times. It didn't get funnier for me as it went.
What if they made it even more barfy?
If he barfed way more than he regularly barfed, I would have been like, okay, maybe. Yeah. Like if they combine the amount of barf that he barfed all 6 times into one barf, then maybe I would have been like, okay. But then, we've reached Team America, and that's kind of what they do.
You know what they should have done? Wendy should have been like, Wendy should have shown him his clitoris or her clitoris and then went, bleh.
Oh, God. All right, Kaylin. Now you're going to jail.
I want to go home.
Yeah. Yeah, all right.
Well, see this one?
Whoa. Can I finish? Can I finish? Can I finish? For Jason and Steven, I'm Kellen.
And for Steven and Cullen, I'm fucking Jason.
Oh, for Kaylin, for Jason, I am Steven.
I just got asked. Hey, do you see this one? Ooh, that was a good one.
Who can I do a good impression of? Oh, I know. Hey, did you see this? Wow. Hey, did you see it? Wow. Did you see it? Come on, see. I got a lot of people from the back off. You got a friend in me.
Thanks for joining us. Come back next episode. We will have Punch and Pie. And good night.
Bye. I'm sorry.